Welcome to my revisitation of Iron Crown Enterprises Middle Earth role-playing game system, or MERP. And if you've been following my installments, you'll know that some of these are up and down, but they're all focused on my fascination of Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth, and specifically the Rollmaster rules game system based on that material. And as a collector, as a game master, as a player, just as a person who appreciates this sort of thing, I purchased an awful lot of this stuff back in the day and shelved it. I played quite a bit of it, and some of it got a lot of use, and some of it didn't. And as the game system progressed, the company had its ups and downs, and the development of the material followed that, right? And the very early period, the first year or so, when they were really focused and the popularity of this thing took off, they did, I think, a better job of interlinking these things. And there's a set of adventure modules and source books that are interlinked. This is one of them. The Rivendell and Breland and the Hillmen of the Trollshaws are prime examples of the classic module that you can play from elite from here to here to here, and they all can interlink. So you could set an entire campaign in this neck of the woods of Middle Earth, and your players may never venture past this area. And see, Goblin Gate would fall into this as well. And so they did a lot of early focus on this neck of the woods, if you will. And later source books expanded out into the wider world and pushed it back, the borders, and pushed it back, so to speak. Hillmen of the Trollshaws. Now, you're probably familiar with the scene in The Hobbit where the dwarves and Bilbo run across the three hill trolls or stone trolls or whatever they were, and get captured by them and eventually turn them to stone. And this is the setting, the neck of the woods, where that took place. But it doesn't focus specifically on that event, right? What it does is give you the story and the history of Rhudaur, one of the three city or little kingdoms that split off of Arnor when Arnor got broken up. Which this is the source book material for that particular kingdom, and it's like Tharbad. Tharbad handles Cardolan, and yeah, we got one for Arthedain too. I just haven't got around to that one yet. Anyway, the particular one here, this is where they spend a little bit more budget money. The Woes of the Black Forest was I don't know. I just don't have a word for it. Well, it was actually, I guess, one of the poorer ones. But the rest of these, they spent the extra money. They got the color artwork. They got some decent artists, or a decent artist. I never could read the handwriting on the guy, and I suppose he's in the credits somewhere. It just didn't occur to me until now that maybe I need to look this guy up and figure out, or gal up. Anyway. Introduction to history. Talks about the Twisted Hill. This has been the chief king city in this region, if you will. That's the picture that there, and they actually give you more detail, additional detail in Rivendell and a couple of the other modules that expand on this stuff. So they all either build off of each other or interlinked with each other. Gives you the short history of the region. Lands of Rhudaur, the Trollshaws, the lowland rivers, the highlands, the climate, flora, the fauna, so on and so forth, which is, what you come to expect to find from an Iron Crown production in MERP. The people of the Trollshaws, the Hillmen, the Dunedain, well, a few of them that remain, the Northmen mercenaries, the Dunmen or Dunlendings, depending on how you want to look at it. And here's a section that very rarely crops up, the petty dwarves. They almost deserve a little entry unto themselves. Petty dwarfs called the Tathal Nilch, or little people, by the Hillmen, were a dying race before the birth of the sun and moon. They were long assumed to have died out in the Belarid during the elder days, and only one, the treacherous Mim, is mentioned in recorded history. Therefore, as very little is known of their ways. I'm not going to go into detail on these fellows, but they are not your average dwarf, right? And in this point in time, the only thing left is the ghosts of the petty dwarfs. There's no living one, I don't think. There might be, I don't know. Places of interest: the fortresses, Rivendell, adventure guidelines. Now here's something that doesn't crop up in all of them. It talks about setting the adventure timeline, choosing a time period. The average was 1640, but I noticed they do bounce around more than I remembered them doing. They do give you a selection of several different ages or time periods. It's a matter of taste. The ones they picked in 1640 was because a lot of the like in the north, most of the large cities were still intact. You still had some Arnorian kingdoms in play. The Habits are just starting to settle the Shire, and Gondor's still in full swing down south. Sauron has been banished to the far east, or is still gathering his strength to return. So, but you got his elements, his minions, and so on and so forth, lurking about. Without going into the period timeline like in Lord of the Rings, where most of this stuff is just ruins, and there's very little of it worth adventuring in. So, like this particular setting, this Cameth Brin, where the tower up here, the castle up here, and the sizable town beneath. Well, by the time you get to Lord of the Rings, it's a ruin, literal ruin, and there's a brief mention in where Aragorn and the Hobbits are making their way to Rivendell, and Frodo's seeing the ruins of forts and forbidding ruined forts up on the hilltops and things like that. That's kind of what they're referring to. Is Aragorn briefly talks about the fighting in the wars, the petty wars that took place, among his ancestors and the Witch King of Angmar. So, it's a matter of how you want to play your game, what your players want. So we got the layout for Cameth Brin. Cameth Brin is the name for both the Twisted Hill and the fortress complex delved into it. And it goes into the breakdown, the interior, your layout, your maps. I think a significant portion of this deals with this one particular setting. Once again, Rivendell also touches on this, but not to this degree. The Trolls Watchtower, Tower Plan, the Tale of Bogfin and Nifl, layout of the Petty Dwarf Hold. I guess at this point you still got one left, and you get to interact with the remaining surviving Petty Dwarf. Nifl the Undying. Nifl is partially in the Shadow World, and like many of the powerful undead, possesses a frightening presence. He normally appears as a shadow in the shape of his living image, but from certain angles one can see him as he once was. Grim, superstitious, and cunning, he epitomised the image of a petty dwarf lord. The rescue of Olaquin, an adventure, rescue the maiden, or the princess, if you will. That's typical, yeah. Princess of Arthedain. Cleansing of Cameth Brin, an adventure. This is set in the 4th Age, so this would be set after Aragorn's crowned king, the King of Gondor, and the Lord of the Rings been banished, and things have changed. The elves have left, or more or less are leaving in smaller numbers. Almost certain the last man that set foot in Cameth Brin did so in 3rd Age, 1975. Engineer from Gondor is sent to demolish the fortress after the collapse of Angmar in the previous year. Not long after, the creatures knows about the ruins, blah, blah, blah. So you go back and try to reopen the place. Whatever. Here's another map of Rhudaur in the neck of the woods. This is a little bit more advanced material, so levels 3 to 6, maybe 7. for a campaign. You'd set them out and breed and progress to this, or you can set them out and breed and progress to Rivendell. And from Rivendell, you expand to this and Goblin Gate and a few others. So that's why I said that some of these things are interconnected. The cat's doing something very weird. Very strange cat. Hillmen of the Trollshaws.